And welcome to the Ultimate Plan B. Kyle versus KJ Day is here. It's time to talk about Week 10. Before we get into it, we've got to introduce you to our analysts, our experts in the fantasy football world. Kyle, say what's up to the people.
What's up, guys? I'm here for your Week 10 advice. No shots at KJ this week. Just going to give you guys some advice.
Oh, all right. Kyle's taking the high road this week. All right, let's see about KJ. What's up, KJ?
What's up, guys? I'm also taking the high road. No, I'm not. I'm better than Kyle. And my Ryan Fitzpatrick pick from last week proves that. I'll be giving you my best Week 10 picks today.
All right. Now you sending the shots this week.
Yeah. Bang, bang.
And it is starting to get a little chilly out there. We got to say what's up to our man in the field. Chris, what's up?
Hey guys, man in the field here. Got a bunch of good questions for you. Gonna get them answered as always.
That's what I like to hear. He's taking care of the people out there. So let's get right into it. Am I right or am I wrong? First, we're going to talk about our starts versus our sits. So let's jump right into it. The first group are quarterbacks. First player on the docket, Mark Sanchez. Came out of nowhere this week. Unfortunately against my team. But he came out of nowhere. So we'll go to the man with the jersey on. KJ, what do you say about Sanchez?
All right, so not only should you be picking up Mark Sanchez, you should be starting him this week. He's playing against a weak team, Carolina. Their secondary has been getting just victimized by every quarterback they go against. Sanchez, I think he's going to have a better pocket presence than Foles. Foles has been tough to watch, and we've just been eking out wins. I think Sanchez is exactly what we need right now in the offense to kind of stabilize that and help our red zone effectiveness, hopefully. So start Sanchez, book it.
Woof. That's all I'm going to say to that. All right, Kyle, Sanchez, what do you say to him?
I agree with KJ on this one. It's pretty hard not to succeed in this offense. He did look good getting thrown into the fire last week with 2 touchdowns. I think 2 touchdowns will be his floor this week, and he'll have a pretty nice ceiling.
All right, I hear you on that one. I can't hate. He did come in and keep the offense flowing pretty smoothly, unfortunately. Next player on the docket. Screw Sanchez. Derek Carr going up against Denver. Let's go to the Denver man. Kyle, what do you got to say about Carr, man?
I'm not getting cute this week just because Denver gives up a lot of yards in the passing game. I'm going to sit Derek Carr. I think you're going to have more options available to you. I know there's a lot of guys on buys, but I still think that there would be somebody else ahead of Derek Carr to take. Denver's coming off a pretty bad game, and I think that they'll be able to hold down Derek Carr and force a couple turnovers this week.
I'd hope so. Their aggressive defense needs to show up, and that's one game they definitely need to show up. KJ, what do you got to say about Carr?
Carr's actually my deep sleeper pick for this week. Obviously, not a lot of people are wanting to play him or expecting to play him, but I think he's in for 18 to 20 point day. I do think he's going to throw at least one pick, but I think his talent as a mobile quarterback might help with that pass rush from Denver. They're going to be chasing points, obviously, but it is a division game, so expect for halftime the game to be like a 4-point game, and the announcers wondering what's going on with Denver, and then Denver blows them out in the second half. But chasing points, Derek Carr will have a good game.
All right, great projection. Kyle's face right now. All right, next player we're going to talk about in the QB group, Killer Cam Newton. Cage, what do you say about Cam? You starting him or are you sitting him?
I know people might be down on Cam Newton because he had a rough day last week, a really rough day against the Saints. I recommended him to a couple people. I felt really bad about that. But, again, Philly defense, don't let the fantasy scores fool you. The special teams is doing a lot of work for them. Their defense is prone to giving up big plays. Cam is a good runner, and I think Kelvin Benjamin is probably going to be against my favorite Eagle corner, Kerry Williams. So I think Cam is actually a pretty good start this week with a couple QBs on bye. Start Cam Newton.
All right, there's Cam for you. Kyle, what do you say about Cam?
This one's very personable to me because Cam Newton has continued to, week by week, break my heart in our fantasy football leagues. I'm going to go ahead and say sit Cam Newton. You probably don't have a better option, but if you do, there's a guy like Andy Dalton out there. start him over Cam Newton. He completed under 40% of his passes last week. He just looks so off, and he's not running the ball again. That one game was an aberration, so sit Cam Newton.
Yeah, Cam has been pretty inconsistent. Let's see if he can hold up or not. So, as always, we have a question in the field for our QB group. Chris Gordon, what's up?
Hey guys, so yes, the question for the QB group is back versus shoulder. Who do you start? Tony Romo or Carson Palmer?
Let's send this one to Kyle. What are you going with? Which injury?
I'm going to go with Carson Palmer on this one just because I feel like he's more healthy, and I think that he'll be the guy that you can trust more. I know Tony Romo is also going to London. It's against Jacksonville, but I just feel like Carson Palmer has been on a streak now. I think it's 6 straight games with at least 2 passing touchdowns and 250 yards. That's going to continue to be more of the same with Larry Fitzgerald looking better in the offense, Malcolm Floyd looking good, and also John Brown as well. Michael Floyd.
That's right. All right, KJ, which injury you want?
I'm going to agree with Kyle. I'm going with Carson Palmer. I think with Romo, I think they'd be crazy to rush him back. They have a bye week in Week 11. To give him 2 weeks to rest up with those 2 fractured bones would probably be smart on their end if they want to even compete for the playoffs. So I think Carson Palmer is a safer start. I think Carson Palmer could have a rough day because I do think the Rams game plan really well for people in their division, as they just did with the Niners. So if Carson Palmer does have a rough day, I did warn you.
You heard it there first. All right, so now we're going to jump into our next group without further ado. Running backs. So, first on the docket, Darren Sproles. KJ, what do you think about the Darren Sproles? Start him or sit him?
I am absolutely starting Darren Sproles. He had a great day the other day against the Texans in limited snaps, both in the passing game and in the running game. So I think his role's going to expand a little bit more. I think him on special teams is probably going to be where you're going to get some points from him. Yeah, I think Sproles is definitely a good start against Carolina this week. Plug him in as a high-end RB1. I'm sorry, high-end RB2. It's not going to get too crazy.
All right, a little too crazy. All right. He did have a good game against Houston, unfortunately. Kyle, what do you say about Mr. Sproles?
I agree with KJ on this one. I think that the Eagles were just holding back a little bit because of the knee injury to Sproles. They didn't want to go too crazy. I think last week showed that his knee is holding up, and I think that he'll have a much increased workload this week. And he looked well with a limited number of snaps last week.
Very true. Definitely keeping him under the reins, I'd say. Next player we're going to speak about in the running back group, Bobby Rainey. He's got a lot of attention this week. Kyle, what do you say about Bobby Rainey? You starting him or are you sitting him?
I'm sitting Bobby Rainey this week. I'm not sure what's going on with Charles Sims, whether he starts or not, but I'm going to go with Charles Sims will at least be playing this week and be taking snaps away from Bobby Rainey. He's not that talented of a back. I know if you're desperate and you got a lot of guys on buys, he might be a nice guy to look at just because he's going to get those touches, but I am not going to be that desperate this week, and I'm going to sit Bobby Rainey.
All right. It's definitely a situation to watch out for down there, so I'd say no rush, in my opinion. KJ, Bobby Rainey, starter, sit him.
I'm absolutely starting Bobby Rainey this week. I know Kyle and I both talked about Charles Sims last week. He was like a last-minute scratch basically for the game, even though we were promised that he'd make his debut last week. I think even if Sims does make his debut this week, it's going to be, 8 or 9 touches. I think Rainey's going to get a heavier workload against a weak run defense in Atlanta. So I'm plugging in Bobby Rainey as a RB2 flex guy, definitely. Proved me wrong last week.
All right, let's see what he can do this week for week 10. Next player we're going to speak about, you see it right there. Jeremy Hill. He's definitely got the spotlight this week, I'd say. Gage, Jeremy Hill, you starting him or you sitting him?
I start Jeremy Hill so long as Gio Bernard. It's mainly contingent on Gio Bernard starting or not. It is a division game, so again, they're kind of a toss-up. I have been using Jeremy Hill as like a flex guy even before Gio Bernard went down, so I think starting him is relatively safe. He is a power runner. He will get goal line looks. So start Jeremy Hill. Be super excited if Gio Bernard is not starting.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that whole situation because Jeremy Hill he's due a big game, I'd say. All right, I hear you on Jeremy Hill. He's definitely somebody to watch out for, and it's a situation to watch nonetheless. Kyle, what are your thoughts on Jeremy Hill? Start him or you sit him?
I'm loving Jeremy Hill this week, even if Gio Bernard plays. I think that they'll be limiting him because of the injury, and Jeremy Hill will get majority of the carries. And Cleveland's defense is 30th in the NFL against opposing running backs in fantasy, so I think that there's no doubt that Jeremy Hill will have a great game. So definitely start him this week.
Oh, he's definitely somebody you want to target or definitely have started nonetheless. So, without further ado, Chris Gordon, what are you going to say for the people?
For the people. All right, so we have a question, and it is in regards to the Cleveland Browns running back, especially Terrence West. He's going against Cincinnati. What do you guys think about him?
All right, let's hand this one off to Kyle. What do you got to say for him?
I love Terrence West this week. I'm definitely starting him because of the fact of what Ben Tate did last week. His totals last week were 10 carries for 3 yards, and Terrence West beat out Ben Tate in carries as well. So I think that he's going to be the main two guy now there. So I would definitely start Terrence West because he's trending upwards.
I hate on that one. He's definitely somebody to watch out for. Cage, what do you got to say?
So I guess we're talking Tate versus West. I don't think West at this point is necessarily going to be the starter. I think they drafted him with maybe that purpose maybe next year. But until they commit to him, I'm not starting with any confidence. I'm still starting Ben Tate against a favorable matchup with the Bengals as they're giving up decent yardage to starting running backs. I think Ben Tate, because of his paycheck, is going to be the starting back there and get the most carries.
All right, I hear you on that. Ben Tate is definitely somebody who's been popping up in fantasy world lately. So, jumping on to our next group without further ado, our wide receivers. And a hot name definitely running in the mills right now. Martavis Bryant. Definitely somebody I picked up. So happy I did. So, Cage, what do you got to say on Martavis? Start him or you sit him?
I like Martavis Bryant a lot. He's giving the Steelers a nice big target for Ben to throw the ball up to. I used to want to stay away from number 2 guys from the Steelers. Coming into the season, I didn't like Marcus Whedon. But this guy looks like a legitimate threat. It looks like Todd Haley's finally letting Big Ben throw the ball wherever the hell he wants. And a lot of those balls are going to Martavis Bryant in the end zone. So definitely want to start Martavis Bryant this week against the Jets, a terrible secondary. I hate to say it over and over again, but week to week, it doesn't look like it's getting any better for them. So, yeah, start Martavis Bryant. He's going to be a stud.
Oh, yeah. Martavis Bryant is definitely that type of player that will go up and get it. Kyle, what do you got to say on Mr. Bryant?
I'm definitely starting Bryant this week. Like KJ said, he's going against the Jets. What else do you really need? Ben Roethlisberger has thrown 12 touchdown passes the last 2 games. I believe 5 of them have gone to Bryant the last 3 weeks. And just a fun fact for those Jets fans out there, the last 15 games it has taken the Jets to get 12 touchdown passes compared to Ben Roethlisberger's 2. So there you go, Jets fans.
All right. And all of the Jets fans just unsubscribed. So going on to our next player, as you see below. Who are you starting or who are you sitting? Steve Smith on the docket. So, Kyle, what do you got to say about Mr. Steve Smith? You starting him or are you sitting him?
I'm starting Steve Smith this week just because of the simple fact that he's still the number 1 guy in Baltimore. He's had a top 10 week, top 10 year, basically, for wide receivers. So you have a lot of guys that are out, and I think that you'd be silly to sit him just because of trying to be cute or anything like that. He's a top 10, top 15 wide receiver all year. Why are you going to start to mess around with that now?
Absolutely agree. So, KJ, Steve Smith, easy question?
I'll tell you why you're sitting Steve Smith, because he's giving you single-digit production the last 3 weeks. Granted, 2 of those weeks were against division rivals. One of those was against the terrible secondary of the Atlanta Falcons. I think Steve Smith established himself early as the top dog, and his age is starting to kick in. I think he's starting to slow down a bit. So, in a week where you can pick up some sleepers, you can start somebody like a Martinez Bryant in place of Steve Smith. You should do so until he proves himself again.
You heard that from KJ, not from me. That was KJ. KJ said that, all right? Next player on the docket in the wide receiver group, Mike Wallace. Definitely a good situation going on in Miami. So, we'll start off with KJ. You starting him or are you sitting him?
Starting Mike Wallace. He is the number 1 wide receiver of the Miami Dolphins. And no, Mike Wallace is a good receiver. He's definitely increased his rapport with Ryan Tannehill this year. They had the Dolphins clicked for a really great game against San Diego this past week. So start Mike Wallace until he lets you down. He's a stud, and he's finally proven it this year again.
All right, let's see if they can agree on something. Kyle, Mike Wallace, start him or you sit him?
Well, unfortunately, KJ, Mike Wallace has let down his fantasy owners the last 2 weeks with a combined 5 catches and 0 touchdowns, and that's against teams like Jacksonville and San Diego when they blew out San Diego. Now they're going against Detroit, who is the number 1 defense in the league against fantasy wide receivers. Stay away from Mike Wallace. He's not going to make you happy this week.
All right, I hear you on that one. I don't know how you couldn't get any decent production out of that game last week against the Chargers. So, as always, for the people, Chris Gordon, what do you got to say for him?
For the people. All right, so we have a question in regards to Tampa Bay, and it's with their wide receivers. So if you had to pick one, who would you pick? Mike Evans or Vincent Jackson?
All right. Let's start off with Kyle on this one. Which one are you going in that weird situation?
This is probably the unpopular decision to make here, but I just like the veteran in this case. I know Mike Evans has had a couple good weeks, but Vincent Jackson is a seasoned veteran. He's going to be on the field. He has a ton of targets this year. I know that not a lot of them have been completed, but if you continue to get 10 targets your way, I think that eventually you're going to break out. And I think that I'm just going to stick with the trust factor in Vincent Jackson and hope that this week it's him instead of Mike Evans.
Yeah, that's a nice trust factor, I'd say. Mike Evans has been filling the stat sheets, to say the least. KJ, Bucks wide receivers, what are you doing?
I'm going with the young buck in Mike Evans. I think that all the trade rumors that are surrounding Vincent Jackson have kind of soured his taste in Tampa Bay. I don't think he's going to stay there long term. I think Mike Evans is going to be the young stud going forward for that team. He's very much like a Vincent Jackson type. I don't think they would have drafted him if they weren't looking to somehow replace Vincent Jackson long term. So I'm saying keep Mike Evans in your starting lineup. Vincent Jackson's been nursing that rib injury for a while now. So.
Yeah, Mike Evans has been filling up the stat sheets, to say the least. So, next player, the next group, Delaney Walker. Interesting situation he has going on over in the Titans building. So, let's start off with Kyle this time. Kyle, Delaney, you starting him or you sitting him this week?
I'm starting Delaney Walker this week just because he's built a nice rapport with the rookie Zach Mettenberger. He's the number 1 target to go to on that team. I know Kendall Wright is a nice target too, but I feel like anytime Zach Mettenberger is looking to throw, he's looking at Delaney Walker's way first. So I think just on that mere fact, and there's not a lot of tight ends out there to go to, I start Delaney Walker.
I hear you on that one. Mettenberger was a nice prospect coming out of the draft, so let's see if he can deliver going forward. Gage, Delaney Walker.
All right, I'm telling you why you're going to sit Delaney Walker. They're going to be having a rough day against the Baltimore Ravens. I think that defense is going to be primed to just introduce Zach Mettenberger to NFL football. He's a bit of a statue in the pocket. I don't think he's going to be able to rush, scramble at all, and try to get the ball away. I think he's in for a rough day, and that's going to affect Delaney Walker's day. So sit Delaney Walker this week.
All right, you heard it from Gage again. Delaney Walker. He says sit him. So, next player. Guess who's Bazak? Owen Daniels. What you got to say about Mr. Owen Daniels, Cage? You You starting him or you sitting him?
So, if you were the Pitta owner, you scrambled to get Owen Daniels on your team because you needed a tight end. He's been thoroughly disappointing ever since that huge two-touchdown game in like week 2. And I think he's due for a big game against Tennessee's weak defense. So I think Owen Daniels is going to be one of the key guys to target. I think he's looking at a touchdown this weekend. I promise you that. I told you to sit Steve Smith, and it's because the ball is going to be going to Owen Daniels this week.
All right, brave projection from Mr. Owen Daniels is coming fresh back. Kyle, you're lounging back there. What do you got to say about Mr. Owen Daniels? You starting him or you sitting him?
I am starting Owen Daniels, but there's no way that Owen Daniels is going to be taking targets away from Steve Smith. But in that sense, I think that they'll spread the ball around enough. I'm going to talk about Owen Daniels a little bit later, so I don't want to give it all away, but I would definitely think that they spread the ball around enough against Tennessee's weak defense where Owen Daniels will have a good enough game for you to start him this week.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they're missing Pitta really bad right now. Next player in our tight end group, Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz. Let's go ahead and throw this to the Eagle because you know he wants it. Zach Ertz, you starting him or are you going to sit him this week?
So, similar to Owen Daniels, Zach Ertz has had kind of a quiet year considering the fact that he was supposed to have a breakout year because of how he finished 2013. But I'm still, this is a homer pick. I'm going to start Zach Ertz against Carolina. I think Sanchez is going to look to establish himself as the new quarterback of the Eagles for now, at least probably for the remainder of the season. So, yeah, look for Zach Ertz to get a couple balls thrown his way, maybe get in the end zone, but I think he's looking at least 70 yards. So 7 points from a tight end is not that bad in a standard format.
Oh, sweet. All right, that's a big Monday night game going up against Carolina at home. Kyle, what are you going to say? For Zach Ertz, you starting him or are you sitting him?
I'm sitting Zach Ertz this week, and here is a list of names of the reasons why I will be sitting him this week. Jacob Tamme, Gary Barnidge, and Crockett Gilmore. Those are 3 names that all scored more points than Zach Ertz did last week. If you ever have to say those 3 names doing better than you, then you probably shouldn't be starting in fantasy football. So until I see a little bit more consistency out of Zach Ertz, I'm not going near him.
Hey, Kyle, he has the stats. Prove the facts. So, as always, for the tight end group, Chris Gordon for the people.
All right, so the tight end question is a waiver wire pick question. I'm guessing the person who asked this had their tight end on a bye. So he was nice enough to give me 85 tight end names to read to you guys, and then you pick one. So let's start. Charles Clay at Detroit. Clay Harbor versus Dallas. Scott Chandler versus Kansas City. Or Michael Rivera versus Denver. It was just 4. I was just kidding.
All right, that's a lot to take in since he wants to go through the whole list.
Hey,
Hands up.
he gave it to us.
Kyle, which one you taking?
I'm going against my Broncos on this one, and I'm starting Michael Rivera. He had 2 touchdown receptions last week, and it's going to be nice garbage time for Michael Rivera in the Broncos game this week when they're down big. I think Derek Carr will be looking his way because the Broncos will be putting a little bit of pressure on. So quick dump passes to Michael Rivera. He had, I think it was 6 or 7 catches, but low yards. So it's dink and dump to Rivera, but in a PPR league, it'll be a nice day for Michael Rivera.
All right, sounds like a valuable pick in my eyes. So, Gage, which one you like to pick up?
Kyle said everything I was going to say. I like Michael Rivera as well, in addition to, because it's a division game, and I think garbage time points have to go to someone, and that person will be Michael Rivera for the most part. Thank you.
All right, and that's for the people. So let's keep this rolling along. So we're going to go on to the next group, our DSTs. So first on the docket, the Green Bay Pack. So, KJ, you starting them or are you going to sit them?
I am starting the Green Bay Packers this week because the Chicago Bears have not shown any kind of team unity the last 3 weeks, not putting up any kind of decent points. And again, it's a division game, so if you're not coming to play hard, you're not leaving with any points. So I think the Green Bay defense is going to be a nice, sneaky defense. They're not owned in a lot of leagues. So yeah, pick up the Green Bay defense, and they will give you 2 picks off Mr. Jay Cutlet.
All right, that's a shot at Mr. Cutlet. So, Kyle Graham, what are you going to say about the pack? You starting them or are you sitting them?
I'm sitting him. That former Cutlet that you were just talking about was the former first-round pick of the Denver Broncos, who will be dropping probably 3 or 4 touchdowns on that Packers defensive backfield that's just not very good. He might throw 2 picks, you're right there, but I think that with all the weapons, this being a division game, Jay Cutler shows up and silences some critics this week.
That's a bold pick. I like it. It's risky. So, next player we're going to talk about, or next players, plural, San Fran. San Fran, definitely an interesting matchup going against the Saints. Why did I forget that for a second? Saints are at home. So, Kyle, you going to start them or are you going to sit them?
I'm sitting the 49ers defense. I think they're 2 or 3 weeks away from getting basically reloaded on defense with all the guys coming back. Bowman, Smith, and Willis, they'll all be back in a couple weeks. So I would look at this again in a couple weeks to start them, but not against the loaded Saints offense. Drew Brees is starting to look like he's clicking on all cylinders, and I don't think I want to touch the 49ers defense this week.
Absolutely makes sense. Saints are at home. They're a whole different team when they're at home in that dome. Gage, what do you got to say about the 49ers group?
I do not like the 49ers this week. They will be losing to the Saints in the Saints' home because Drew Brees is a better quarterback in the world. And San Fran's defense just has not looked good this year. So, yeah, sit San Fran defense. They're still owned in way too many leagues. Like, they're in like 90% of leagues owned. They're not that good. Drop them, stream somebody else. San Fran kind of sucks right now.
They were definitely a hot pick up in the draft, and I'm sure everybody's regretting that at this point. So, next DSTs we're going to talk about Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals. It's definitely a group to watch out for. So we'll see if they can follow through. They're going to be taking on the Cleveland Browns, but they're going to be at home. So, Cage, what do you got to say about the group of Cincinnati?
I didn't know Kyle was commentating twice for today. That's pretty cool. So I don't did I spell Cincinnati right? I hope so. Cincinnati Bengals, another team that was drafted early, and they were awesome at the beginning of the year when they were winning games by a lot. But now they kind of suck. So I'm sitting Cincinnati in a division game against the Browns. The Browns have been shocking people with a little bit of offense. So, yeah, sit Cincinnati because they haven't done anything for you lately.
Absolutely right. Just drop them. So, Kyle, Bengals, gonna go with them?
I'm going to start the Bengals defense this week just because I think they're going to return to their beginning of the year form, force a couple turnovers against Brian Hoyer, and I think the Cleveland Browns will make the Cincinnati Bengals defense look pretty good this week.
I actually hope so. So, see how the Browns are going to do this week. So, that's the end of our starts and sits. On to the next segment that we all love. Buy low, sell high. We discuss the hottest names in the trade market in your fantasy football league. So, without further ado, the first player we're going to talk about in the QB group, Ben Roethlisberger, the hottest name in football right now. So, Cage, what are you going to do about Ben Roethlisberger? You buying low or are you going to sell him high, I would hope?
So if you have Big Ben on your team, he's probably your backup quarterback or was drafted as your backup quarterback. So if you have somebody ahead of him that's a stud that you're more comfortable with starting week to week, it's time to sell high on Big Ben. You can probably get something good in return from somebody like the Cam Newton owner or Matt Ryan owner that's been struggling the last couple weeks. So see if you can turn him into a stud running back or stud wide receiver instead of having him just putting up points on your bench.
So a person that's definitely looking for an upgrade in one league I know. A Cam Newton owner. Kyle, what are you going to say about Big Ben?
No, I really didn't even think about Cam Newton when I thought about selling high for Ben Roethlisberger, but a situation you could look at is find an owner of Nick Foles. This guy's out for 6 to 8 weeks, so that person's definitely going to be desperate. Maybe you can find something pretty good out of that. And just like KJ said, if you have Ben Roethlisberger, it's probably because you drafted him as a backup. So sell high.
Makes sense. He's the hottest name in football right now. There's no reason why you would buy low on him, to be honest, because you're not getting away for cheap. So, next player on the docket, Carson Palmer. Definitely an interesting situation since he's been back. So, let's hand this off to Kyle. Buying low on him, or are you selling high?
I'm selling high on Carson Palmer as well, just because I don't think he's a top quarterback. He's had a nice year, but if, again, you're looking at somebody that's in a desperate situation, had enough of Cam Newton, Nick Foles owner, then maybe you can get something pretty decent for him if you need a running back, if you need a wide receiver. So if you have him, I'd sell him. If you're quarterback hungry, I don't think I would give up too much for Carson Palmer, but if I had him, I'd try to sell him high.
I absolutely agree. If you have a great starter, why not? See what you can get. Fill up another group for yourself. Gage, Carson Palmer. Buying low, you're selling high.
I am buying low on Carson Palmer. I think if anybody's looking to pick up Carson Palmer, it's because they just lost one of their quarterbacks, whether it be Romo, Foles, or what have you. So I think Carson Palmer, I think it's going to be rare to see a deal where you're just trading for him straight up. I think it might be like a 2-for-2 deal, and Parsons part of the deal. Maybe you're getting another wide receiver. So buy low on him. Definitely don't overvalue him. But yeah, Carson Palmer is definitely a good quarterback to have if you just lost one of your big guns.
Absolutely makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. I would probably buy low as well. So, going on to our next group without further ado, our running back group. So, first on the docket, Mr. Alfred Morris. Definitely a hot name going on in Washington. So, let's hand this back over to KJ. Alfred Morris, are you going to buy low on him, or are you going to sell high? It's definitely an interesting situation to watch.
All right, so Alfred Morris just had a big game. I think it's now to sell high. Kyle's kind of harped on the fact that he's been disappointing fantasy owners for the last few weeks because of just the tough matchups they have. The NFC East playing the NFC West, and those are tough, undefending teams. So try to use his name and this last game as fodder to kind of sell high on Alfred Morris, maybe get a decent wide receiver 2 on your team for him. Try to boost your team and get this erratic dude off of it.
That's definitely somebody to flip, to say the least. So, Kyle, Alfred Morris. Oh, you're selling high.
I really don't know what to say about Alfred Morris, honestly. That's why I have my answer in the bottom here as NA, not available. The only thing I do want to say is that maybe if he does have another solid game this week, what you can do is try and sell high for him just because of, like KJ said, his name. He's going to have 2 good weeks in a row, and if you can get rid of him, I would definitely go for it. But I think that if you have Alfred Morris, you're basically stuck with him at this point.
Oof, coming from a Denver fan. Okay, on with the next player on the docket. Right by a little sell high segment. Lamar Miller. Great situation there in Miami. Definitely didn't come back and get a lot of work. So, back to Kyle. You buying low on Lamar Miller, or are you selling high?
I'm selling high with Lamar Miller. I think that he is the main man now in Miami. He's getting plenty of touches. He's seeing a ton of red zone touches, which is the best stat that you want for your running back. So I think that the only thing that would make you want to get rid of him is this shoulder injury that's making him questionable this week. Maybe you want to look into that a little bit more. If that's going to be something, then I would sell high on him and try to get maybe a different running back in return.
Absolutely true, and a lot of people definitely do want into that Miami offense right now because they are clicking, to say the least. So, KJ, Lamar Miller, you're buying low or you're selling high?
All right, so Lamar Miller is a nice, good, young running back on a team that really has no other competition for him. He's got Daniel Thomas, and he's got Knowshon Moreno, who's not playing anymore. So there's no competition for him in the backfield. I think he's a solid person to have on your team. Don't look to try to sell him. Don't keep him on your team. If you don't have him, don't overvalue him. I think if you buy medium, if that's even a term, You can get him on your team for a decent trade probably right now. He hasn't cracked that RB1 status yet. He's just a good RB2, so don't overpay for him. See if you can buy a medium on Lamar Miller.
All right, Lamar Miller fitting the bill for KJ's stats. So, on to the next group, our wide receivers. The first player we're going to talk about is Julio Jones, the Atlanta Falcons. Julio Jones. I've yet to figure that out myself. I'd probably sell high, in my opinion, but we'll see what these guys got to think. So, Kyle, Julio Jones, you're buying low or you're selling high on him?
I'm buying low on Julio Jones just for the simple fact that there is a handful of top wide receivers coming into this year that have had a really disappointing year so far. I think you can count Julio Jones in that handful. I think that somebody that's had enough of them, getting a little frustrated, you might be able to throw something a little on the lower end, maybe like a Julian Edelman and a running back 3 right at a Julio Jones owner, and they might go for it. So I'm going to buy low on Julio Jones.
All right, you heard it from Kyle himself. So, Cage, buying low or selling high on Julio?
I don't know what leagues Kyle's in, but in all the leagues I'm in, trading is kind of a pain in the ass. People are trying to like screw you over for trades. So if you're trying to get Julio Jones, people are trying to get top dollar for him because of where they drafted him, and they don't care about his production. So if you want him on your team, you're probably gonna have to spend a little bit. So I'm not buying high on Julio Jones, but I would sell high on Julio Jones based on name and where I drafted him.
That's what I like to hear. That makes sense to me, in my opinion. So, going on to our next wide receiver. That's right. Next wide receiver we're going to talk about, A.J. Green, fresh off the injury, ready to come back. He's going up against the Browns. He's going to be at home. See how he's going to handle sharing the ball. Mohamed Sanu a little bit. Buy low or sell high? Cage, what do you got to say on A.J.?
I'm saying keep him. I don't think A.J. Green is going to be the kind of guy you move right now. If you try to go after him, you're going to get highballed. So don't really go for it. I know Sanu is getting some looks his way from Andy Dalton, but he's pretty much in the same role that Marvin Jones was in last year. So I don't think the emergence of Sanu is necessarily a bad thing for A.J. Green. I think it's good because it takes some of the heat off of him. So if you're an A.J. Green owner, you keep him. And if you're trying to get him, good luck.
Absolutely. I own him in 3 leagues, and nobody's getting him. So, Kyle, A.J. Green, what do you got to say for the guy?
This is another buy low for me. It's kind of the same situation as Julio Jones. I know KJ was saying that no one's going to trade that kind of stuff for these guys, but if you actually have football people in your fantasy football league that knows what's going on, they know that these guys aren't having a good year and that they don't just have a big name. So, again, A.J. Green, you're going to be frustrated with him. He's got injury right now. He's still not playing all the snaps. They said this week, off of an early week, is going to be a couple more snaps for him, but I don't trust him just yet. I know he's going to be a stud eventually once he's healthy, but if you can find somebody that's frustrated with him, buy low again.
All right, there you have it. Cut both different ways. In my opinion, I'd say be patient. Be patient. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. So, going on to our next group, the tight ends. Definitely a name to think about right now. Greg Olsen, tight end for the Panthers. They got a nice little matchup going against Philly. So, let's send this back to Kyle. Greg Olsen, you're buying low or you're selling high on him?
I love Greg Olsen, so if you have him, I would say keep him. But if you need to trade for some reason, you have other areas of need, I would sell high. He's going to be a top 3 tight end probably for the rest of the year. Cam Newton doesn't really have anyone else besides Kelvin Benjamin, so I would definitely either keep him or sell high and don't accept anything other than a sell high.
Greg Olsen. So, going to Cage. Greg Olsen, you selling high or you buying low?
I am buying low on Greg Olson. I think because of how Cam Newton has struggled, it is affecting Greg Olson's value overall. Yes, I know he's one of his top targets. He's a really good tight end, but when you have quarterback troubles, it affects all the other skill positions. So if you can buy low on Greg Olson, I don't think he's going to be a top 3 tight end the rest of the way, but I think he's definitely a top 7 starter with some tough matchups coming up. So buy low on the Jersey guy. Oh my God, who's that guy? He's so cute. That's weird. He looks like me with a beard. Buy low, Greg Olson.
All right, there you have it on Greg Olson. So, here's an interesting one for you guys. Jimmy Graham. Definitely not a new name you've not heard for the most traded players in the league. But he has been the most traded player throughout the entire year. He's been the top 3 throughout the entire fantasy world. Jimmy Graham. Still trying to figure it out myself. Sometimes he wants to play, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes the Saints want to play, sometimes they don't. So, send this one to Cage. Jimmy Graham, you buying low or you selling high still?
Jimmy Graham is somebody you should buy at all costs. If somebody is still frustrated with him because of those down weeks he had, then obviously they don't know the tight end paradise they're going to be in the next few weeks. Buy him however you can if you need to make a package deal. Obviously you don't screw yourself over, but get Jimmy Graham on your team. It's just common sense.
So KJ, what KJ is saying, he's saying, we have a TV that you don't really need. Go ahead and sell it for Jimmy Graham.
Yo, you want 32-inch Panasonic flat screen?
All right, Kyle. Jimmy Graham, you buying low or you selling high still?
If I have him, I'm not gonna trade him unless I have a nice backup tight end. But if that's the case, I'm gonna sell high just because the tight end position is so thin this year. I think that, like I was saying before, with the wide receivers is so deep that you don't have to worry about getting rid of a top target that's been struggling this year. I think with Jimmy Graham, you're selling high, you can still get a lot of stuff back for him because of how thin the tight end position is.
Absolutely agree on that one. Titans have been dropping like flies this year. So, as always, our trade scenarios, we're going to go to our man in the field, Chris Gordon. What do you got to say for him?
All right, guys, breaking news here. We have a potential ultimate Plan B trade, and it goes Kendall Wright and Darren Sproles for Phillip Rivers. KJ, since you're the one not involved in this trade, what do you think?
I think the Phil Rivers owner is getting somewhat gypped unless they have another stud wide receiver. So, yeah. I think Kendall Wright somebody should probably be dropping right now because no one can start him. Darren Sproles, yes, he's going to be a good running back for the rest of the way, but he does not equate to the fantasy status of Phil Rivers, even after a terrible game against Miami. Thank you.
All right, let's ask the sender of that trade. Kyle, go for it.
Well, here's the deal, gentlemen. Phillip Rivers has a nice value. You're right, KJ, but I do understand that Phillip Rivers will not be starting over Aaron Rodgers for the rest of the year. So if you're going to send me Phillip Rivers, I'm not giving you all of my starters for someone that's going to sit on your bench unless Aaron Rodgers gets hurt the rest of this year. So Kendall Wright and Darren Sproles are both borderline starters. If you had to start somebody like who Rowe is starting this week at wide receiver, I think you can use a guy like Kendall Wright or maybe move a guy like Darren Sproles into the flex. So I think I have a pretty nice trade proposed here.
For a receiver on this end, I'm going to say, hell no. Why? Kendall Wright, I have no faith in. Nobody has faith in him. Even if he has a good matchup, he's going to sit. Even on a good matchup, he's going to sit. For this week, I do have a lot of buys. You know, goes from Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins. Well, I don't have DeAndre Hopkins in that league, but you know what I mean. A lot of buys this week. So, starting Martavis Bryant, starting Jarvis Landry. See what happens. It's against Kyle, so not too worried. So, going on to our next segment, we're going to talk about our sleeper picks, everybody. Sleeper picks. Segment everybody wants to see right now. So, let's go ahead and start with our QB group. Kyle, who's a sleeper in your QB slot?
All right, we spent a lot of time already talking about him, but I think that just because he's going to be a hot waiver wire pickup this week, I'm going to go with Mark Sanchez. Like we said before, he had 2 touchdowns last week in limited action. I think that that'll be his floor again, and that he'll definitely put up some nice, maybe top 10, top 12 quarterback stats this week.
All right, you heard it. Sanchez is on the board. Cage, QB sleeper of the week.
So somebody we didn't talk about, who I think a lot of people are fed up with, is Russell Wilson. He's ranked as a top 10 quarterback, and if I had him, I'd just be sitting him. He's sucked the last 2 weeks, and in place of him, I would start Derek Carr, who's my deep sleeper pick for this week. So my deep sleeper history so far has been pretty solid. Kyle Orton lighting it up, Ryan Fitzpatrick, 20 points last week. So yeah, stick with me when it comes to sleeper QBs. Trust me.
All right, you heard it from Cage himself. So, let's go ahead and go to the next group. Without further ado, running backs. So, Cage, who's your running back sleeper of the week?
Sorry, I was making it rain. My sleeper running back of the week, we spoke about him earlier, is Bobby Rainey. Hold on. Bobby Rainey. So Bobby Rainey is going to be the starting running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. He's going against a weak as shit defense in the Atlanta Falcons. So I'm starting Bobby Rainey this week because.
Without further ado, that's just because.
Sorry,
So,
yes.
Kyle, who's your sleeper running back this week?
This is a guy that's been a frustrating player in fantasy football for ever since he's been drafted into the league. But I'm going to go with Darren McFadden this week. I think that he is definitely the man now in Oakland. He outtouched Maurice Jones-Drew last week 17-2. He's getting a couple targets in the passing game. He had 5 last week. And that's going to be big against the Denver Broncos this week. Denver Broncos are always giving up a lot of yards to dink and dunk plays to the running back. So if you're desperate, I would go with Darren McFadden this week.
All right, he's going with an oldie, other goodie. So, that's our running back sleepers of the week. So, without further ado, wide receivers. Who's sleeping in the wide receiver slot this week? So, go back to Kyle. Who's your wide receiver sleeper this week?
My sleeper this week at wide receiver is a guy that's building a nice little chemistry with Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. He's had a couple of touchdowns now. They're coming off a bye. I think that they'll be working even better together now. It's against Chicago. Chicago's defense is nothing to go crazy about, so I think that he'll definitely have a nice game again, along with the rest of the wide receivers from Green Bay.
All right, that's definitely a good pick. Green Bay's going to have a field day, in my opinion. So, Gage, wide receiver sleeper this week?
My sleeper wide receiver is somebody that Kyle talked about last week, but the Niners in general kind of failed. So I'm thinking Stevie Johnson is going to start light it up this week against the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints defense looked solid against mobile quarterbacks. Don't know what they're going to be able to do against Kaepernick. I think Stevie Johnson, I wanted to call him Stevie Wonder, but I think Stevie Wonder is going to be getting open for Colin Kaepernick down the field. I think Stevie Johnson's got a good chance of scoring this week. Plug him in if you're looking for a wide receiver.
All right, you heard it there. He's going with Stevie, going with the 49ers. So, without further ado, going to go to our next group. Tight ends. Tight ends definitely been sleeping this week. Got a couple coming back. So, Gage, who's your tight end sleeper of week 10?
So we spoke about him earlier. My sleeper tight end of the week is Owen Daniels. He's been super quiet the last few weeks. He's due for wow. Why are you putting your hands in the air? Let me pick my people. Damn. So Owen Daniels is gonna get in the end zone this week. I promise you that. If not, you can have my dog.
All right, I think ASPCA is going to have something to say about that. So, Kyle, who's your sleeper tight end this week?
And this week, the last 2 games that he played in, he's had at least 6 receptions. That's a nice number for a PPR league. I think that he has a good chance of getting in the end zone. So if you get 6 catches, you get another touchdown on there. That's at least about, I'd say, 15 to 20 points this week from Owen Daniels.
Definitely makes sense. He was a stat stuffer before he left, and I'm sure he's going to come back to do it again.
So if he doesn't score, is Kyle going to give away his cat and I'll give away my dog?
That sounds like a good trade to me.
Everyone is going to start now with a chance to get 2 new pets.
Exactly. We have the animals lover back on our channel.
My
So,
dog's old, but he's adorable.
next group we're going to talk about is the group Indeed, our DSTs. So, Kyle, who's your sleeper DST this week?
I know KJ's going to think I'm crazy on this pick, but I have a lot of numbers to back this pick up. My defensive sleeper of the week is going to be the Atlanta Falcons against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And here's the stats to back it up. We have the last time the Falcons faced the Buccaneers, we have 3 sacks, 1 interception, 4 fumbles recovered, and 2 touchdowns. Sounds like a pretty good day for a defense, and that defense had 31 points that day, and that would be the Atlanta Falcons defense. Start the Atlanta Falcons defense this week.
They'll be going against Bay on the road. Let's see what happens. Gage, sleeper DST this week. What do you got?
All right, so my sleeper DST this week are the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers are one of the greatest teams in all of NFL history. I'll tell you that there, Chief. And I think this week against the Chicago Bears, they're going to light Mr. Jay Cutler up. Monsters of the Midway, my ass. That was weird.
That just got really weird, to be honest. So, that's our sleeper picks of the week, everybody. So, this is the segment for our people, where you get to drop in your questions to all of our social media outlets, and we'll answer them here. So, without further ado, we'll hand it off to Chris Gordon, man of the people.
All right, guys. So yes, we've looked on Twitter and our Facebook page. Twitter again is @UltimatePlanB. Facebook is the Ultimate Plan B, and we found a couple questions for our analysts here. The first one is just kind of a player update. So what's going on with Sims in Tampa Bay and Zach Stacy from the Rams?
I know somebody that has an opinion on that. Kyle, what you got to say about that?
I think that Charles Sims is definitely going to play this week. I don't know how much he's going to get, but I would say he'd probably be between 5 to 10 touches. If you're in a deep, maybe a 14-team league, you might want to look at maybe a deep flex sleeper there. Otherwise, you might want to stay away from him for one more week. And Zach Stacy, I think he's just completely gone out of the depth chart in St. Louis. I've been high on Trey Mason. I'm going to continue to be high on Trey Mason until he proves me wrong. He's definitely the most talented running back there, and I would go with Trey Mason the rest of the year if you had anyone to choose out of the St. Louis running back depth chart.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of either player in my opinion, but we'll go ahead and send this off to KJ. What are you guys saying on those two players?
All right, so I'll start off with Zach Stacy because there's not much to be said. Dude sucks. He's just not doing well anymore. He doesn't look like he's the back there, so ignore Zach Stacy. Drop him if you can. Clear up some space on your bench for somebody who's worth it. Somebody like Charles Sims. Again, I don't think he's the starter that we think he's going to be this week at least. Me and Kyle were both really high on him last week, and it didn't pan out. Still stash him on your bench. Be ready for when he does start to play by dropping Stacy and picking up Sims. Simple as that.
All right, a little faith in Sims. Okay. Back to the man of the people, Chris Gordon.
All right, next question in regards to the NFL running back controversies that have happened this season. So Adrian Peterson getting some resolution to his issue, and Ray Rice going for appeal tomorrow. So are you guys picking them up if they've been dropped? Do you think they're done for the season? Maybe Ray Rice's career? Just, I guess, thoughts again in general.
All right, let's send this back over to KJ. Are you going to pick up one of these offenders?
Well, when you put it that way, I don't want to shame my team by picking up either one. But if I am picking up one, it's going to be Adrian Peterson because he did not get cut by his team. Ray Rice did get cut by the Ravens, so if you're picking him up, now you're hoping somebody picks him up to be their starting back, which I don't think has as much likelihood as just AP coming back to the Vikings and starting for them for the rest of the season, since he's already familiar with the team and their playbook. So pick up Adrian Peterson if you can. If you got a spot on your bench, maybe you have Zach Stacy. Again, get rid of him. roll the dice with Adrian Peterson. Maybe he starts for you week 12, week 13, going into the playoffs. You might have AP on your team and you didn't even draft him. So
Well said, well said. And I'm sure a lot of people are already trying to stash Josh Gordon at that, so we'll see what they can get out of those people. So, Kyle, AP, Ray Rice.
I'm not picking up either of these guys in any case scenario, just because if Ray Rice signs with a team, he's not going to be anything better than a third on the depth chart just because of how far along in the season we are. And if I remember correctly, when all this stuff happened with Adrian Peterson, I believe the owner said that Adrian Peterson will not be playing for the Vikings again. So even though he's not been released by them, he's a little bit more valuable than Ray Rice. He might be looking at maybe a sign-and trade or something like that with another team. So unless you have a keeper league, then you maybe want to pick up Adrian Peterson just because of how talented he is. Otherwise, I'm not touching anyone for this year.
Absolutely agree. AP doesn't have room to kind of come back, and the rest of the NFL kind of look down on Ray Rice, so I don't know what's going to happen with that guy. So, back to Chris.
All right, and the final question is, who should I start as my individual defensive player? Jason Witten or that tree that killed Sonny Bono?
All right, interesting question. Kyle, starting the tree, Jason Witten.
I'm going to go with Jason Witten on this one. If you watched the Cowboys game this past week, he had 2 tackles. Sounds pretty good for me with a guy that you need to start for defense. And if you're going through offensive players, Jason Witten's leading the way right now. He ran down Patrick Peterson. I don't know if anyone saw that. Patrick Peterson got a pick. He was clear on his way to go, and Jason Witten ran him down. So Jason Witten's starting on my team.
All right, and if Brandon Whedon keeps throwing those picks, see what happens. Gage, what do you got to say? Tree, Jason Witten.
So it really depends on how your fantasy league is set up. If your fantasy league is set up so that you get points for taking someone's life, then I would say start the tree. But if your league is purely for football players only, I would say Jason Witten's probably your best bet.
That makes sense. Or you can try to pick up that shovel that one girl threw at the other girl. She had an arm, I would say. That shovel? It was a lucky shovel.
She threw like a spear.
Back to Chris Gordon.
All right, guys. Well, that's all the questions we have for today. I just want to say thank you for everyone that took the time to post on Twitter, post on our Facebook group. So, again, please find us on Twitter at Ultimate Plan B. Give us a follow. Shout out some questions for next week. And also use the hashtag KVKUPB. Also, like us on Facebook at The Ultimate Plan B. And you could be on the show next week.
You heard it there first. We're working for you guys. We're trying to update our stuff, get our quality up. We're working for you. You know, we're working for you. Help us. Help us help you. All right? So we'll see you next week.